When it comes to art, the internet can be a great place to grow a following. It offers avenues to share your creations and accrue a following based on your vision. A lucky few even manage to make a living online just from posting their art. But on the flip side, some find themselves struggling with their platform. Accusations of irresponsibility are all too common, not to mention an overwhelming amount of criticism for your art that you never would have seen if not for accumulating a following in the first place. Today, we'll tell the story of Puppychan, an interesting individual who many online have taken an acute interest in, both for her funny and sad moments, to see if we can learn a lesson about her fall from grace and disappearance. Autumn joined Twitter in June of 2016 when she was just 13 years old. The young artist lived in a religious household, with her family being Jehovah's Witnesses. This was oppressive to the point that her mother viewed talking animals as satanic. If that wasn't bad enough, she struggled to make friends. Her self-described autistic behavior led to constant bullying. That made the site a refuge for her to express herself. She'd vent about her identity, as well as posting drawings from her iPad. The latter attracted an audience as she was surprisingly quite talented. Her art was fluid yet detailed, with a good sense of colors. It was imperfect in a very charming way. The earliest to go viral were a series of furry panty and stocking drawings, but she quickly accumulated an audience, reaching 5,000 followers by late 2017. Eventually, she introduced her own original characters. The most notable were a lesbian couple named Tammy and Magna. The former was trans, which she used to discuss the subject. Even early on, there were signs Autumn wasn't quite able to handle the platform she had been given. She contemplated deleting the account in light of this attention. 2 days later, she asked what they liked about her and received an influx of compliments. The endless validation was addicting to the otherwise isolated young artist. In the first 2 years, her account had just 4,000 tweets. By January of 2018, that number rose to 14,000. These consisted of mostly unimportant nonsense. From her fast food order that day to live tweeting anime, she started to live on Twitter. The spam did nothing to hinder her growth. One early trend amid the "I'm a puppy" post was frequent sympathy baiting. She'd ask her audience if they were happy she was alive. This was the start of a very unhealthy relationship. Autumn came to rely on the site for comfort, a common but self-destructive mistake. It was one much of her audience would make. Autumn became known for fostering a safer workspace for minors. She had open DMs so anyone could reach out to her about their troubles. Up until now, the artist had largely escaped controversy, but that changed in early 2019. If you'll recall, Autumn used her character Tammy to discuss trans issues. Her comics with the couple almost always went viral. In fact, Tammy was so popular that she had her own account, but this proved controversial when her handling was called into question. That February, an account called B and Puppychan was created to argue she fetishized trans girls. They pointed out the character had little to no personality beyond acting childish and having big breasts. She was written to be extremely horny, referring to her girlfriend as a fleshlight. It was also strangely clarified that she didn't get bottom surgery. Though Autumn identified as trans, she was non-binary, not male at birth. This, again, came off as odd when posting things like Tammy's HRT timeline. The user wrote, "Going through Puppychan's art, and the thing that really gets me is their early art of Tammy does not feel fetishy at all. So it really seems like a recent development and just evolved to that." I'm gonna be honest, guys, I kind of think that all of this is just a nothing burger, but I digress. This backlash was quelled after Autumn messaged the creator to admit fault. She conceded that her handling of the character was inappropriate and vowed to do better. Regardless, accusations of discreet fetishism continued. If you thought that Autumn was terminally online before, it somehow got worse. That year, she tweeted 16,000 times, with another 20,000 in 2020. The internet became her safe space, to the point that her mother threatened to cut her off. This meant an uncomfortable level of openness. The artist openly shared videos of herself stimming, which included pretending to be a dog. Not only did she ask people to call her a puppy, but she posted videos of herself barking. The most famous example is a tweet showing her order from McDonald's with the caption, "Pups gotta eat." Pups gotta eat. The photo shows she ate 40 nuggets and 3 large fries. That's over 3,000 calories in one sitting. In addition to kenning Snoopy and Blue from Blue's Clues, Autumn also began age regressing, creating a cope sona called Blanky. It's a baby dog with a binky. Other things of note include a homemade fursuit that's just kind of creepy, and constant threats of self-harm. It was a cycle at this point. She'd overshare online, get into petty drama, sue a bait, and then pretend like nothing happened.
Hi everyone. I just wanted to say that you guys are really nice to me, and that I really don't deserve all this love. I'm sorry, I'm just really emotional right now.
That petty drama, more often than not, concerned her art. In spite of previous concessions, it had become increasingly suggestive. The once varied body types were replaced with big breasts and thick thighs. It attracted many NSFW artists who were then chastised for interacting with a minor, but they came for a reason. Autumn deflected this observation with her age. She denied any undertones, implying even the claim that it was horny was inappropriate, but that changed behind closed doors. For trusted fans, she created a private account called Puppychan69. There, Autumn openly fantasized about lactation, weight gain, and, diapers. Please, I want to be in a big, soft, poofy diaper and kissing my love. She even tweeted, "Black Lives Matter diaper for art." Ladies and gentlemen, the West is saved. In June of 2020, an account called Tired of Puppychan was created to leak this info. The bio read, "I'm sick and tired of a minor that calls himself a trans chaser drawing porn and encouraging normalizing suicidal thoughts to a large platform of minors." Her fans viewed it as harassment and had it mass reported and suspended. This did little but stall the individual, who simply made another profile. While most were on Puppychan's side, a handful used this as ammunition. They bombarded her with hate and even called her a pedophile for being into diapers. The pressure caused Autumn to crack. Initially, she promised to improve and be more careful with handling her large following. Then she deleted the tweet and called for mass reporting. Then she began privately ranting about how she had lost followers. This was enough for her to threaten ending herself. Please don't do this to me. I'm done. I'm really done. Leave me alone. You don't care. You want clout." The next day, she accused the troll of being racist. It's clear that, despite previous invitations of criticism, it wasn't welcome. She was willing to use her safety as a shield. "Next time someone tries to call me out, I'll straight up kill myself for real." Her most cogent response throughout this time was to argue that the diaper art wasn't sexual. Whether that's true or not, I'll leave up to you. Before I say this, I hate DDLG and baby first stuff. I think it's sexualizing infants and it's gross. I went through a lot of childhood trauma, such as my sister hitting me and being verbally mean to me, experiencing racism, and being bullied in school for my autistic behavior. All of this has messed me up as a child, and now what my brain does is think back to times when I was younger because it comforted me and made me feel safe. I'm into weird things like childhood things and also diapers, but it's safe for work. I feel comforted by these things due to my experience and trauma. On June 22nd, Autumn and the account owner had an argument in private. She questioned why they continued leaking screenshots when she deleted her NSFW. They pointed out her irresponsibility and suggested they leave and return at 18. She refused, and sympathy baited every day for the next week. The critics surmised, Puppychan will never change. Puppychan's last comment on the situation would be, "I'm not a bad person, I'm fucking 17 and mentally ill and autistic." With a narrative set and her fans sympathetic, the backlash slowly faded away as the account went inactive. But this peace didn't last long, and was instead preparation for what became her biggest enemy yet. In 2020, an animator named Antoons fought the entirety of art Twitter. He had over 1.3 million subscribers, mostly from a series about cartoon characters on their deathbed. That summer, he began posting politically charged comics in line with artists like Stone Toss. He even started making a fighting game called Pill Fighter. This led him to gain over 10,000 followers, as well as face intense backlash. That set the stage for his eventual feud with Puppychan. On September 12th, Antoons began arguing in his replies. In rebuttal, he pointed out the user was trans and autistic. This led Autumn to quote tweet him, telling Anton to educate himself before spreading hate. Instead, he reposted a comic with Tammy with the caption, "This artist is educating me while living in a fantasy world." Autumn responded, "Oh come on, Mr. Stone Toss ripoff." The comic actually touched people instead of your shitty bait comics, which only rely on shock value to purposely get a reaction out of people. Instead of being a pussy and screenshotting me, talk to me face to face. Square up. It was somewhat aggressive, which she excused by being on her period. Having assumed Autumn was biologically male, he asked how this was possible. This only led to more backlash, as he was asking a minor about their genitals. The public backed Puppychan, to the point that she broke 40K that day. In celebration, she got McDonald's. Meanwhile, Anton was berated to the point that he locked down his accounts. He didn't back down though, immediately mocking her appearance. A few individuals on Twitter, claiming to be his more rabid fans, drew art of her being lynched and mutilated. Eventually, he went so far as to put her in his game. Her attacks include period blood, a horde of trans people, and diaper furs yum yum time. Things continued to escalate as more and more people got involved. That included YouTubers like Daft Pina, Prison Mate Luke, Just Stop, and Izzy's. Their coverage necessarily fixated on his initial fight with Autumn, of which she appeared sympathetic. This led her to reach far beyond Twitter artists, which was the catalyst for a new wave of popularity. I'm not going to go too much farther into that drama because it isn't very relevant, but after Daft Pina's video, the two seemed to make up after having a private conversation. He removed her from the game and even posted this drawing. but Daft would end up leaking a screenshot of Anton planning to backstab her when she turned 18. His justification was that her biggest shield at the time was her being underage. Indeed, some of the arguments were a bit ridiculous. Many framed her persona as a direct representation of Autumn to argue that he drew NSFW of a minor. It was a way to dunk on him, even if it wasn't entirely fair. On November 20th, 2020, Autumn celebrated her 18th birthday. This is notable for several reasons. Autumn had painted her mother as beyond reason. For example, when she trashed an expensive Pokemon plushie for being demonic. Well, Puppychan entered a polycule amid the Antoons drama. Her mom called it an illusion and told her to find God. In time, she realized Autumn was responsible for the demons inside their house. This led her to threaten to kick her out when she became an adult. But when the day came, it was never brought up again. In fact, shortly after, she wrote a letter to her mother about leaving Jehovah's Witnesses. This time, her mother respected her wishes completely. It's unclear exactly how oppressive she was, and if it was motivated by dogma or concern. Given how Autumn used the internet, most parents would intervene, but the threats of self-harm also led to wellness checks from cops, which exacerbated things. Even more relevant is that it exposed the drawback of using her age as an excuse. For as much as she'd used Twitter as a safe space, it became one for many young fans.
Oh, I just wanted to say that you were loved, and you were very, very valid in my eyes, and that I just love you so much, and if you ever feel alone, just know that I'm here, and that I'm here to love you. Please stay safe, and have a good day.
And this became apparent as her attitude changed entirely. Her vent account was rebranded into a public page for NSFW, and the art that she posted there was, pretty bad. There's several pieces of Tammy and Magna, which was questionable given previous controversy, but then there's Vor, big stomachs, and even her persona with comically large breasts. If this wasn't enough, she then began talking about how much she hated minors. It feels too uncomfortable having a community mostly made up of minors that look up to me. I don't like having to appeal to kids. I hate minors sometimes. I need to get out of this community of minors that's driving me crazy. Bear in mind, she'd only been 18 for 2 weeks, and was simultaneously tweeting about cookies and belly rubs. In response, a call-out was made accusing her of endangering minors. There had been no effort to weed out her previous followers. The user then highlights how suggestive her art was in general. Autumn atoned for this by promising to delete the account entirely. I know what has happened and I'm sorry about what I said. I'm glad this is being brought to my attention. It was my job to provide a safe space for minors and I failed. I posted suggestive artwork as a minor and now as an adult on my main, but I will be here to say that it will stop for good. Then she tweeted about trying to bleed out before deactivating. When the account came back, it had changed entirely. The username was now Pancake Swag and she referred to herself as Mickey. This didn't last long, being reverted within hours, but it was the start of her attempts to rebrand. If this was to escape controversy, however, it didn't work, as she went on to lose over 5,000 followers. Things weren't any better in her personal life, with her relationship collapsing. Hazel, one of her girlfriends, was accused of trying to pressure minors into their polycule. In light of this, Hazel deleted everything and disappeared. Autumn never addressed this, she never had to, because on December 10th, she wrote, "I decided to do it tomorrow at 10 p.m. when I get my phone back. Nobody can change my mind. This is my final decision. Good night. I'll give my final goodbyes tomorrow." But she hadn't waited, and attempted to overdose on medication that night. Within minutes, a post was made begging the public for help. It paid off, as those who knew her stepped in and contacted authorities. Autumn was hospitalized, which ultimately saved her life. But this was taken seriously by her mother. They placed her into a psych ward, which she revealed before entering. In spite of all the controversy, people were still quite favorable to her. It had been a mistake and she was clearly not in the right state of mind whatsoever. There was hope that the facility would be good for her, finally breaking the online addiction. A week later, she returned to Twitter after finishing her visits, and as you can guess, nothing changed. In January of 2021, her thread on Kiwi Farms was made public. It had been created almost a year prior, but only received attention after the ordeal. It was moved to the Art Cow section as discussion largely pertained to her degrading art. Her work had significantly decreased in quality in a way that was almost puzzling. The line art and coloring became sloppy. Her cohesive palettes were replaced with dry, desaturated hues, and it lacked the same attention to detail that once permeated through her work. Everything that made her art so appealing was gone. Take this character, a Cerberus girl she designed. The fur, shading, and especially clothes are very well thought out. This is what they became. Boring, flat outfits, and the same body type as her other characters. But the best examples are the redraws of her old panty and stocking fan art. The earlier version shows a grasp on volume and perspective. Look at how the smoke rises from her gun, or how Stocking's hair blows in the wind. The latter completely ignores the smoke. Her hair overlaps incorrectly, and there's artifacting around all the colors because she used the fill tool. She used to experiment and put more time into each piece, but as time went on, this decline only worsened as she ignored more and more fundamentals. I mean, why wouldn't she? The audience didn't care. They were just coomers. Not only that, but she continued to grow with each piece being shared by thousands, if not tens of thousands. Her art had never been particularly original. I mean, what got her success in the first place were anime girls as furries. But the thread noticed just how many of her so-called original characters were thinly veiled ripoffs. None of her followers noticed. When she started a webcomic, it was borderline unreadable. Yet the comments insisted it was amazing. Even when being called out for tracing, which they'd usually consider a grave sin, she was defended. They no doubt had a hand in coddling Autumn, but it's truly hard to blame them. When any criticism becomes a risk to her well-being, it's only natural they'd be averse. Over the year, she amassed 80,000 followers, and as her audience grew, so did the dissent. It's worth noting at this point that Kiwi Farms really was the premier place for documenting this stuff, and to this day, it's where a lot of the information about Autumn remains. On July 22nd, a call-out post was made for something Autumn said in 2020. She had proclaimed her love for transbian, onsisbian, or NBN porn. This was once again viewed as fetishization. In the replies, they also called her out for using a reaction image that reads, "Ah, sweet, a schizo meltdown." They argued that the term schizo was ableist. It would take time for Autumn to address this. That's because 3 hours later, she revealed someone had contacted her family. "I can't believe I have to fucking say this, but don't ever fucking message my family on Facebook. You people have no boundaries. Like, tracking down my sister and telling her I posted something on my NSFW account is literally going too far, man. What is wrong with you people? You think sending my sister a link on Facebook and telling her I'm posting titty pics is okay? You people are going too fucking far." It was only after that she addressed the criticisms on her private accounts. First, she claimed to not fetishize trans girls. This, in spite of, the day before, writing, "Trans butch bull girl with a massive bulge, but she's also very submissive." Dude, we're in too far. Next, she apologized profusely for posting the Peter Griffin meme before claiming to also suffer from schizophrenia herself. "I know I shouldn't make that joke. It was shitty and now I realize it was hurtful. Like, I'm so fucking sorry. I suffer from these mental illnesses too. So does my family." She elaborates that she hallucinated demons and had even been possessed by one. She reveals a vision in which she was an angel and watched the world end. She continues, "This is destiny. I am a martyr. I believe angels and demons are very real. To tell you the truth, I'm scared of my future. But I realized I do not have one. This is perfect. The little innocent child who lost her innocence at 8 does not exist anymore. I miss Autumn. I miss her so much. I don't know this body anymore. The sweet child that was shy but very silly. Nobody talked to her. I don't belong in this body." It ends with her saying she was regressing mentally to a helpless toddler. "I want a blankie and my stuffies." Yes, her response to being called ableist was to start schizo posting in an attempt to convince people she had schizophrenia. She even went further the next day, alleging to have debilitating ailments. "I know this is small, but I'm proud of myself for eating today without getting sick. I don't know what's going on, but my body has been physically getting weaker and weaker to the point where I mostly stay in bed. I can move, but then I have to instantly lay or sit down. And I can't eat food anymore except liquids. The truth is, my health has been declining rapidly, but I didn't want to tell anyone because I don't want to worry or upset anyone. That's why I haven't really drawn anything except repost artwork. I am slowly dying." This was revealed to be diabetes. There was not a single month after this that Autumn didn't find herself in controversy. People continued trying to make the trans misogyny claim stick, but it just didn't. The more compelling argument was her use of the platform. In August, she claimed to have developed PTSD from being harassed online. "I've been dealing with harassment since I was 16. It was so bad it gave me post-traumatic stress disorder. I used to break down every day and apologize over the most minuscule shit. Now, I don't give a shit anymore." In spite of this, the breakdowns only became more frequent to increasing scrutiny. They came across as manipulative, especially given how she ignored anyone who advised her to take a break. The criticisms of her suggestive art didn't end either. People began comparing it to often derided Twitter body type, as many artists drew characters the same exact way. Autumn disputed this by calling critics entitled and comparing it to her own appearance. "I draw my characters with big chest and thighs because that's my body type, and I'm tired of other people on here thinking those body types are Twitter artist things. People like that exist. We're not fictional creatures, and acting like you're better than any other artist for not drawing like that is annoying. I'm just gonna go and say that, no, she does not have the same body type as her characters. It was a thinly veiled excuse to capitalize off of horny people, which frankly she admitted herself. I like capitalizing off of horny people. My suggestive puppy art gets more likes and comments, and my NSFW stuff does super well. That account keeps growing. Sheesh. I had 8K 2 months ago, and now I have almost 23K. Not long after that, she posted an image asking people what her artist trademark was. Most of the replies were positive, though one user commented, "blatantly fetishistic proportions." She quote tweeted this, locked her account, and yeah. Her response to even the slightest amount of backlash was getting worse. For how long she'd been on the site, Autumn was incompetent. It's bizarre just how she regressed as a whole. The once promising young artist now drew boring, derivative Coomer bait. Instead of welcoming criticism, she doubled down in a way that ensured people wouldn't call it out. But at the very least, she hadn't weaponized her audience, right? The influx of growth had gotten to Autumn's head, basking in her popularity. That included bragging about every single notable person who followed her. She even gloated about all of the creators who defended her during the Antoons drama. Her well-being began to depend not just on positive reinforcement, but attention. It was obsessive, with outbursts coming from her art not receiving enough likes. On November 15th, she designed a female e-girl version of Garfield. It was to widespread acclaim. Many artists began posting their own interpretations, with Gothfield becoming a meme. While initially flattered by Gothfield's popularity, she began to resent it as the character escaped her grasp. The fan art started to surpass her own interactions, and people stopped recognizing her as the creator. She would express this in an interview with We Got This Covered. "I feel honored by this all," the artist said of the popularity of the meme. Puppychan went on to explain that they were excited at first, with so many people participating in the fun and friends messaging them to joke about it. "I was just like, wow, I just created the worst thing ever and people like it." However, the artist went on to say that they felt a little sad because a lot of bigger people were getting in on the meme without being aware I created it. It hurt a little, but that's okay. This led to a campaign in which she leveraged her audience to pressure others for recognition. In fact, the only reason she got interviewed was because the site had covered it before. They did not credit her, which she made very clear. "The news article didn't even credit my art or said I created it. I'm worthless. I like how even when I start something, I'm overshadowed and ignored by big artists. I see why others hate y'all. Fuck y'all and your cliques." But a more blatant example was her feud with Cannabis Junkie. On October 12th, a call-out post was made accusing the user of calling Autumn a racial slur. In response, she called for them to be suspended. Her followers rushed to not only mass report them, but attack the alleged racist. The only problem is that the screenshot wasn't real. Cannabis clarified the caps were fake, and the accuser immediately deactivated. This led Autumn to delete her quote tweets, but rather than apologize, she doubled down. "Yeah, I'm just going to ignore that. Calling me racial slurs and misgendering me makes you a massive fucking loser. You probably smell like cheese." It would take over 3 weeks for her to admit fault, only doing so after the target made a video about the ordeal. They revealed her audience had doxed and even attempted to hack them. Finally, she acknowledged the tweets were fake and disavowed the actions of fans, but she unintentionally admitted to knowing the truth within hours. "Okay, so apparently someone sent me a fake tweet of someone saying something about me. I failed to check to see if the tweet was fake or not. When someone pointed it out to me that it was fake, I deleted the tweet." Cannabis rejected this apology, viewing it as inadequate and insincere. They argued it was all an attempt to have the video taken down. "When you found out about the video, you know what you did? You threatened to kill yourself and went on to guilt trip others again, proving my point in the video was true. And then you proceeded to delete the account and responded with 'I'm fine' when someone asked if you were okay an hour later. You are not sorry. You tried to make me look like the bad guy with these tweets." This was proven on her private account just 2 days after. Me talks about getting harassed. These people, suck it up. Someone, my stupid followers did something to them. These people, poor baby, don't let the evil Puppychan get to you. Autumn eventually made a second longer apology, which still left much to be desired. Half of it is spent explaining things that happened to them for sympathy. It was, again, not accepted. The conflict only fizzled out because Cannabis themselves began to self-implode. They started to make bizarre claims, such as claiming her fanbase had stolen their grandma's credit card. Yes, really. But regardless, how Autumn handled this was completely irresponsible. The feud had been completely fabricated, yet it took a PR risk for her to actually take responsibility. It was a symptom of her platform's increased weaponization. Autumn now interacted with every single person who disliked her as a method of silencing critics. It was usually implied, though sometimes explicit, and everything was off limits. Even the legendary Pups Gotta Eat meal was spun to have an empathetic deflection. I had a really bad eating disorder because I was in an extremely depressive state to the point where I would eat a lot. It's not healthy. I still struggle with eating issues, and turning it into one big haha meme is just insulting. Now I don't even eat as much anymore, and I even forget to eat sometimes. You can hate on me and shit on me all you want, but turning my ED into a meme is quite fucked up, my good bitch. I'm just gonna say that she definitely ordered those 3 large fries on purpose. When she first posted this, it was an accident. No, you wanted those fries. You definitely wanted those fries. In the midst of this, Autumn's mental state was worsening. The sue-baiting and manic posts ramped up tremendously, becoming every other day. This was likely in part due to her inability to retain professional help. She claims to have been abandoned by 5 different therapists. No matter the validity, the void was now fully replaced with Twitter. That fall, she began ideating over the date of November 22nd. It was her late father's birthday, who passed away when she was young. Autumn began talking about how she missed him and planned on joining him. Not only that, but she alleged to have been assaulted during her visit to the psych ward. I'm shaking. This is heavy, I know, but after one of my hospital visits, the staff did something to me. I don't remember because I was asleep. After that, my breasts started growing. I started to produce milk and would miss my periods, but I would still get cramps. I think I was pregnant at one point, but it's gone, and I don't know. This is why I'm even scared of men and lied about being a virgin. I've been assaulted a lot, and I wanted to tell people that I was a virgin so they could be interested in me. Under the belief of a miscarriage, she began mourning her lost child and asked fans to call her Mama Pup. This info was then made public as a defense against her love for diapers. When I was 17, I started to age regress due to my traumatic past. I did it against my will because that's how I was coping with my trauma. Call me whatever you want, but don't spread lies if y'all want to know so badly. I was assaulted in a psych ward while drugged up. Age regression is not sexual, it's a trauma response. This is despite her visit occurring in December of 2020, an entire year after. It was now November 21st, 2021. At 4:15 in the afternoon, she began tweeting, "Tomorrow is the 22nd. Everything is getting worse now. I'm trying to mind my own business. I live till my birthday. That's enough. I'm done with life and everything, and going to a psych ward won't help because I was raped there. Therapy doesn't help because my own therapists leave me. I'm done. I lost my child, my dad, my grandparents, my favorite people, my girlfriends. I lost hope for everything. I'm not going to say goodbye and then come back. Nobody's going to leave me alone until I actually do it. I can't even go on break without people contacting my family. I'm done. Nobody understands the pain and suffering I went through." Then she started making threats. First, it was to boil water on her hands and mutilate her genitals. The latter was a vow to chastity in order to become closer to God. I want this to show people who say or think I'm all talk, but not actions, or that I make empty threats. I will do this because I am God, his disciple. If you want proof, you can ask me. Anyway, I gotta go. The next day, she returned alive and well. This continued throughout the week with ramblings about being the Antichrist and Judas reborn. On November 27th, she made another threat, this time to eat fruit. "I'm going to ingest blueberries. I want to test endurance with my body. I'm severely allergic. I just want to feel pain. Cutting is too obvious." Then she posted a photo of herself holding a single blueberry as proof. People think I'm just baiting or faking, but this will show how I am. This and all my other punishments will free everyone. Soon my body will give out and I will be with Christ. The first step is done, I have consumed it. To be clear, blueberry allergies are extremely rare. In fact, this source claims there's only been one documented case in all of history. I'm not saying Autumn's lying, but, well, she survived. It later escalated to very graphic descriptions and a photo of a kitchen knife. This all went under the radar, being contained largely to her trusted followers. But that changed on December 22nd. "I took 80 milligrams of Prozac and 15 milligrams of Zyprexa. It's just going to put me to sleep. I'm going to drink alcohol to boost the effects." Within 24 hours, she was back to posting furry art on Maine. The posts were subsequently leaked, spreading across Twitter. To many, this behavior was undeniably manipulative, and the sheer absurdity of making threats with a blueberry was unreal. Not to mention that Autumn was once again pretending like nothing happened. The most she'd do to acknowledge it was to blame it on her other personalities. No, I'm not joking. Her reputation from this point forward was soured, even more so than it already was. It got to the point that Puppychan minors was suggested autofill. People were tired of the cycle, her inability to handle criticism, and refusal to take responsibility. Puppychan is an amazing example of why some artists on here should not have massive fucking platforms. They need actual intervention from trained professionals, not coomer furries and children constantly coddling them. This constant public cycling of breakdowns and weird behavior is incredibly concerning, and the facts they surround themselves with yes men do nothing to help. Yet, 2022 was on track to be one of her most successful years yet. By January, she'd broken 100K, and she gained another 20,000 between February and March. The Puppychan brand, amidst all of this, was still growing. Perhaps to address the growing criticism, Autumn added an 18+ signifier to her account's bio. This ironically made things worse. She began operating the account as if it were always an adult space, making no effort to push minors away. That meant they were now all being exposed to worse, as she felt justified in being openly sexual. These NSFW retweets were interacted with by teens as young as 13, which was the entire point. To make things more confusing, she also removed the 18+ at several points. People started to scrutinize her associations as well. They found her to be mutuals with Forlung, a controversial furry musician. They've been accused of a lot, including a dubious story about kidnapping a minor. I have no comment on its validity, but her proximity to other hated figures also damaged her reputation, not to mention just odd things, like making a borderline NSFW account with her niece. The callouts were more frequent as she became socially acceptable to hate. Several parody accounts even appeared, such as the short-lived Sluggy-chan. It replicated her art style and mocked the cycle in memes. Those who stuck by her attempted to give heartfelt advice in private, only to be ignored. And so, even they grew disillusioned as Autumn gradually lost goodwill, to the point that she began attempting to escape from the name Puppychan. That February, she began promoting the account of her supposed cousin, whose art was near identical. It was immediately sniffed out, causing her to delete it. She later claimed it was a social experiment. In March, she called out a much smaller artist for tracing. Her thread claimed it was line for line, even though the original had worse anatomy. The reply surmised it was not traced, but inspired, something Autumn should have been sympathetic to. Because of this, she quickly deleted the thread. With the public increasingly against her, things were reaching a boiling point. It seems like her next misstep would be the last, as there would be no more chances. But no one knew how imminent this was going to be. On March 23rd, Autumn began venting on her private account. I followed this one artist who is a kid. They call me mom and talk about boobs around me, and even found my NSFW account and started showing and saving my suggestive pics from there. They make me so uncomfortable, but they're like a mentally unstable kid, bro. Even when we met, they tried to VC me, and that's all they want to do, man. I don't know. I want to block and move on, but I don't want them stalking my accounts. Thing is, this kid was held accountable for drawing suggestive shit and still does, and begs me to retweet their art. This whole situation is a fucking disaster waiting to happen. You know, I'm gonna grow some balls and tell them straight, tell them to fucking stop. And they PM me saying they wish they could draw stuff like I did without getting canceled. Told them, you're a kid. They said, it's not fair. Bro, I can't do this. It was about a 15-year-old boy named Call Me Green, who had indeed gotten in trouble for this in the past. He had a history of drawing in spite of being a minor, even abandoning his old account after getting called out. He'd go so far as to brag about people whacking off to his work without knowing he was underage. Immediately, people began telling her to unfollow him and to block all communication, but she continued interaction with him and even shared his art publicly. The next day, her tweets were leaked by an anonymous account. Sorry, but Puppychan still interacts with minors and lets minors interact with them. Just because they're comfortable doesn't make them a victim of anything. They literally let this happen after being warned countless times by adults and minors. The tweet began picking up traction as people began referring to her as a groomer. In response, she blocked him and claimed the situation had been handled. This upset Green, who then started threatening to leak DMs. He began hyping up a call-out implying she'd taken advantage of him. In response, Autumn posted a thread with excerpts from their messages. While they didn't tell the whole story, it does give insight as to why she didn't block him. He was spamming her with threats to his own life and trauma dumping. She explains, he constantly talked about wanting to draw suggestive shit. I got so tired that I snapped and told him, because I'm an adult. What I should have done is explain to him, but he is extremely mentally draining. In my DMs, you could see that I'm extremely distant and give a reply with 1 or 2 words while he spams me. They both went on to delete their tweets and apparently made up, but a separate third party then leaked 2 additional screenshots from her private. The first showed Autumn advising him to post his art on a locked account to avoid creepy adults. The second shows her confirming he'd identified her NSFW. They argued that, regardless of context, these were inappropriate. If this were an isolated incident, people may have been more forgiving, but it was a pattern of behavior that made it so concerning. Puppychan's been told time and time again to stop interacting with minors, yet here they are. This is wildly irresponsible from a creator that has a storied history of interacting with minors as an 18+ account. I've caught them sharing suggestive artwork to their fan base of 100K strong, from teens the ages 15 to 17. It's 2 clicks to vet your fan art and follows. The post, among others, received thousands upon thousands of likes. Everyone who'd come to resent her over anything began expressing their disdain. There was an influx of trolls, both past and present, who returned for a victory lap. This only incensed after her thread was featured on Kiwi Farms. To many on Twitter, Puppychan had been outed as a groomer, and everything was fair game. It's revealing how many people had been secretly mocking her the whole time. Turns out, no one actually believes making fun of this McDonald's order is wrong, or that it's cruel to mock her art. In the end, she'd lose over 15,000 followers. Her final response came on March 31st, reiterating that she had not taken advantage of him. It includes a message from her niece, who pointed out Autumn never left the house. Then it ends with a threat of legal action. As you can imagine, this did little to shift the public's opinion, quickly being ratioed. 2 days later, she deactivated all of her accounts. In the aftermath, people began debating over whether or not it was okay to steal her original characters. This screenshot also went viral of Autumn attempting to show her improvement at art. One user wrote a long reply comparing the two and praising all the choices of the left. To which she replied, "That's the old drawing." On April 24th, an account was created called Kung Fu Revi. It was her attempt at a disguise. Autumn was identified immediately, though people fixated on her newfound broken English. This was, presumably, to sound Asian. She vented about getting exposed and called racist before deleting the profile. Her last appearance would be months later in June to accuse Green of blackmail. He simply leveraged the situation to get her to refollow him back. Yeah, everyone in this situation is a loser. It's worth emphasizing that there's no actual evidence Autumn is a groomer. Green has, to this day, refused to release the DMs. What he deemed predatory was her putting a heart on his message saying "mommy." He'd admit when confronted by a friend that there was no intimacy being suggested in their chats. To put it bluntly, from the evidence available, it doesn't seem like Autumn is a groomer. Just really dumb. But even with that said, the way she used her platform was wildly irresponsible, be it the constant emotional manipulation of fans or the inability to reflect upon her mistakes. From the moment she joined the site, her worst tendencies were enabled over and over again by her audience until it destroyed her. I don't think Autumn should come back to Twitter, but I'd be hard-pressed to say she should have her life ruined. When Autumn left, she was only 19 years old. Unlike many other losers out of our trifecta, she started far younger and used the site as a temporary bandage to growing pains. But her story is a stark reminder of why that's such a massive mistake. Because after all these years, what is her legacy at the end of it all? An emotional wreck with wasted potential. I've been Turkey Tom, thanks for watching, and until next time, leave me alone.
I've heard it 1,000 times before, and it's just not that funny anymore.